Greetings and welcome to the Old Patrol HQ podcast. I'm your host, Gil Maza, retired Class 313 out of San Diego sector. Today, me and JJ tackled Chapter 4 of his book, Invaded, The Intentional Destruction of the American Immigration System. Chapter 4 is called Mayorcas. JJ comes from Class 339, retired out of NEWTON-AZRAK station in San Diego sector. He is calling out this administration and the treasonous meat puppet heads of DHS CBP for their criminal complicity in this all-time historic border crisis. Come and take a listen. I want the most bang for our buck, my friend. The most bang for our buck. I'll tell you one thing, man. I woke up this morning and I was just exhausted mentally and emotionally. I got up around 4:30 in the morning, couldn't sleep, so I got up and I started doing some stuff. I got a lot of orders to take care of, so that was cool, you know. And I thought to myself, today I'm just going to walk away, walk outside, do something else. And then I start getting the messages, right? Hey, Gil, guess what? Boom, boom, boom. You know, intel from Tucson, intel from El Paso, intel. This is what's going on. This is what's happening. And now I get caught up back into it. And I'm so done with DHS CBP, the leadership there. This administration is to be expected, but these guys, did you see my last post where I said that I believe that DHS CBP is working the hardest from anybody to convince America that the borders are closed and secure?
Yep.
Who else is working harder than these guys? Nobody. You know, and so I'm getting to the point where I'm just shooting down the bow now, because it's like DHS CBP is actively involved in literally changing the minds and hearts of Americans. They say that they're addressing all these social media posts to the illegals. The illegals where? The ones that are outside the country trying to come in, the ones that are in the country, who? Because we have tens of thousands waiting at the Darien Gap, coming in on that beast train, no slowdown whatsoever.
No, accelerated.
So it's Americans that are seeing the messaging, and too many Americans, unfortunately, that are either still asleep or in the nosebleed sections, or I don't know what. They are going to vote based on what they hear the officials at DHS CBP say, and they're saying the borders are closed, the border's secure, we're enforcing Title 8, and every agent and officer that works DHS wide, CBP wide, knows we're releasing thousands daily into the country, right? And then New York decides they want to do their solution, and so Hochul goes and actually speaks to DHS, speaks to Mayorcas, and their solution is to now grant expedited work permits to everybody that got sent to New York and all these other cities. And it's like everybody that tried
against
to do
the law.
JJ, everybody that tried to do it right is in the back of the line now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because you break the law, you get to New York, you get to whatever city you're in now, and now they're going to expedite your work. And let's not even get started on the financial the jobs that are going to be taken, all those things that are going to affect, that are literally devastating every state in the country, in the country now.
I wish that I had some hope. Like I get this question quite a bit from podcasters or interviews. Okay, we're going to end the interview. Last question. Give our listeners some idea of what they can do to stop this and what they can do to help. And I got nothing. I said, look, I just spoke to you for an hour and a half straight, and I'm telling you that I'm speechless on this one. I don't know, because Mayorcas, who I find to be incredibly intelligent man, ambitious, I give him incredible credit for his rise to prominence and power and authority.
Yeah.
But he is an extremely strategic man, and he has worked over everyone in the Senate and the House, and he does whatever he wants, and he is winning.
He's afraid of nobody.
He's afraid of no one, and this man is, once historians write volumes about him, once we find out exactly who he is, they will go back and say he is one of the greatest traitors in American history. Joe Biden, he has no idea what day it is.
Yeah.
He doesn't know. All he cares about what type of pudding he's going to get as his dentures continually. Think of this man that's the president. His dentures are falling out all the time. He can't speak correctly. But let's not just knock the Democrats. Look at our Republican leader,
dear
McConnell.
Lord. McConnell.
He is brain dead. He's literally having strokes. And you know what his handler does yesterday? He has the 30-second stroke, and his handler says, well, we just need a moment. Anybody else got any questions? How about this? If that was my grandfather, I would say, call 911. My grandfather's having a stroke.
Yes.
That just shows you they don't care. He's a puppet.
Well, that goes to your point from the last chapter we talked about, right? And trust me, folks, we are going to get to the meat and potatoes of today's podcast. But that goes to what you said before, that this far the Republicans and the Democrats are both a uniparty that has failed this country miserably when it comes to not only immigration but many other ways as well.
Yeah, and I look at what's happening today, and I'm glad we're talking about my chapter 4. Mayorcas, because when I wrote this, I finished almost all my chapters, and I went back and more research I did. I was like, okay, I can't talk about Mayorcas throughout the book without an explanation of really who he is. And what's been interesting to me is I've known about him, right? So I lived through that in being a supervisor in a northern interior station. So I lived his prosecutorial discretion that he created with Obama and implemented. So I knew about him intimately, right? Because he had a direct impact on my professional way of life. But what's astounding to me is how nobody knows about this man. He is really, truly invisible to the American public. He gets up there and he puts out this almost like not of arrogance. He just sits there and he's so small, like he's a very small man, like physically small, and he's bald and he just looks like not all there. So you get like this sympathetic feeling, but he's a terror when it comes to destroying the immigration system. So when I talk to people and I tell them, okay, this is who Mayorkas is, they're like, what are you talking about? He just was the DHS secretary of Biden. How could he have all this control? And I'm like, how do you not know who this guy is? I mean, he's been around for 2 decades now, maybe even longer as being a U.S. attorney. I mean, this guy he's been in the weeds and he has learned. He's kind of like a great border patrol agent that cut his teeth down in the most dangerous, violent area in the border, and he became this great supervisor and then manager because he cut his teeth doing the job. That's the same thing with Mayorkas. This guy didn't just drop off out of the sky and land in Biden's administration. This guy has been experiencing and understanding the inner workings of policy and law through USCIS and on and on. That's how he's able to create this chaotic and lawless world that we see on the border today.
Yeah, JJ. Well, first of all, then let's just start by saying welcome back to the Old Patrol HQ podcast. And what we've been doing, right, is we've been going through your book chapter by chapter, outlining your background and your thoughts on what you were intending to do when you were writing this book. And the 4th chapter we're on, chapter 4, is simply titled Mayorcas, right? Mayorcas. And I have a huge beef with them. You have a huge beef with them. Rodney Scott has said to me that this man has like a Jedi mind trick effect on most of the people that are around him to make them believe that not only is he a victim of circumstance, not only is he struggling hard to try to do the right thing in this administration and do the right thing for them, but that also that he's the good guy. Ortiz, that traitorous Ortiz once said to a room full of retirees, where he could have said whatever he wanted, right? He wasn't on the on recording, he wasn't the public eye, but he literally told them that Mayorcas was the best thing that ever happened to the Border Patrol in his tenure. Right, in his tenure in the Border Patrol was the best. He was the best thing that ever happened. So let's start with Mayorcas. Right, I'm going to read the first part here.
Okay.
Of, like I always like to do, just to kind of set the chapter in context. So let me go ahead and read it real quick. It says, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is the tip of the spear on every decision causing the invasion of our borders. Mayorkas did not begin his reign of eliminating immigration laws and policies when President Biden hired him to assume control over the largest law enforcement department in the nation. Mayorkas' America Last policies began during Obama's first term, when Mayorkas was appointed the position of Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS. This was an extremely important position for Mayorkas. As Director of USCIS, he gained knowledge of the inner workings of a powerful piece of an immigration machine. In his new position, Mayorkas went to work quickly, as he was responsible for the creation and implementation of Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA. And that's actually how you begin this chapter, by explaining what DACA is. It's not what we think, is it?
No, DACA is a boondoggle. As I write about, the vast majority of the people now that are DACA recipients are as old as up to 40 years old. I mean, it's insanity what's happening. And I write in the book that when DACA was being implemented by Mayorkas and Obama, they were rubber and stamping 98 to 99% of all cases approved.
Yeah.
I mean, this is truly, and I hate to use slogans, but this is so America Last. If you do not believe that this man Mayorkas, and I give him, I pin it on him, right? Because you have Joe Biden, and then you have his cabinet, right? Joe Biden has no idea where he's at. He's functionally brain dead, okay? So you have all of these people that are cabinet members running everything, and they're running their own little world in a conjunction of America Last. And Mayorkas he is fundamentally transforming America from a nation of citizens to a nation of non-citizens. He is going to balkanize us. I mean, I'm looking at videos that are now coming from the border and you see it. I'm talking thousands of people walking down a trail, like a wide street coming into the Mexican small towns to cross the border.
Yep.
And they're all single adult military age men. All of them. I always ask this question, but I'm going to ask it again. As this continues, and we're going to break the 3 million mark this year under Mayorkas, 3 million people will have been arrested at the end. September starts tomorrow. At the end of September, there'll be over 3 million people arrested and then released in 1 year. And there's nothing saying that this is going to stop. In fact, we're looking at numbers daily in the last probably week. They're accelerating. So 3 million will be obliterated in FY24. How does this end? Like, does anybody ever talk about the end result? Like, what do you think is going to transpire when we hit 25 million people crossed illegally and absconded under Biden? So now we have 65 million people in our country that are foreign-born nationals, either LAPR, illegal aliens, or children thereof.
Yep.
How do you see this playing out? And there's no good end result. Like, you can't argue that this is going to end well. It's just not.
Right.
And we just keep ignoring it.
Yes. So I have said many times that Mayorkas is single-handedly responsible for bringing the immigration system of the United States to its knees. And I got some pushback yesterday. Someone said, well, he's only part of it. But would you agree that there has been nobody in the history of this country, right? And that sounds very dramatic, but that has done the damage they have done to our immigration system and to our country in just the last 953 days of this administration than this man, Mayorkas.
I agree 100% that he is single-handedly the greatest destroyer of the American immigration system. He has brought it to its knees. He has broke it, that it's never going to be fixed again. He broke it completely. And anybody that says differently is either grossly ignorant or they're a part of the problem. They're corrupt.
Right.
Or, yeah, that's it. And any Border Patrol agent, I understand how Border Patrol agents work because obviously we were one. You get mired in the weeds, right? You just
Yes.
like, okay, this is what we got to do today. Let me just get it done and get out of here. I understand.
Yeah.
But when you're able to pull back and look at the totality of what's happened, it's you can't argue that he is the destroyer of everything. Okay,
But we
let's
can't
just
ignore
go.
it anymore.
No, you can't. And so let's just go. Let's just look at what this man has been a part of. He created DACA, implemented DACA. He played a huge part in prosecutorial discretion under Obama, where everyone in the interior was not allowed to be arrested and deported. He started with catch and release, opened the floodgates on the border. He then went to NTA releases, street releases. That wasn't good enough. So then we went to parole, which is illegal. Then he went to asylum, actually created a app on your phone that the cartels run now. He's doing that.
Yes.
Okay. He's now, Biden's administration is now asking for several billions of dollars to create housing for asylees in America so that they don't have to worry about being homeless.
Oh.
He's also created safe mobility offices, which are regional processing centers in Costa Rica, Colombia, and Guatemala, with the State Department anticipating creating 100 of these brick and mortar buildings down in South America and Central America. He also is the same man that went down to the Darien Gap and funneled millions of dollars to build migrant camps for all the migrants that come through, that they can receive medical attention, food, clothing, and get rest before they continue on.
And this is documented by Michael Yon, right?
Oh, this is not even, yes, Michael Yon was the first one to talk about it. Great investigative journalist. He's the first one, but now it's not even like, well, Michael Yon, he's making it. Oh, no, he's not. Mayorcas went down there a year later because, as I write in my book, a liberal organization is like, whoa, we've never seen this many unaccompanied alien children ever. Like there's thousands of them crossing and being brutalized. So Mayorkas had to go back down there, and in his speech, he talks about, well, we're gonna help create more legal pathways for people just to kind of like streamline to get into America. It's like going to the grocery store and you got your big cart and you're like, oh, I can just go through this line and self-check out. Nobody's really watching me. Screw it. I'm going through that one. We'll just create the fastest way possible. We're doing that for immigration. We have no idea. Look what the FBI just came out with, right? The FBI, who is a corrupt organization to the core, said, oh my God, we found a cartel smuggling ring where they're smuggling in people on the terrorist watch list. And Border Patrol released at least a dozen of them. And everyone's losing their mind. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, that's the tip of the iceberg. That's a nothing. There's thousands of these people in our country already. You bozos, how do you not know or think? I love how everyone is so myopic. They see something that's wrong and they focus on it and they think that that's the only thing that could be happening. It boggles my mind. Like we arrested, what was it? The CBP came out 90 days ago, said, okay, we arrested 125 terrorists. We shattered last year's record of 98. Look at us. We're doing so good. And I'm thinking, God, does anybody realize that the vast majority of the border is unprotected? So I'm to believe that 125 terrorists, those are the only terrorists that crossed the border in FY23, and we arrested all of them. Yeah. You have to be a complete moron to believe anything like that.
Well, you know,
this is Mayorcas.
You know what, JJ? The thing about that really drives me up a wall is them talking as if the crisis just began. Oh, it just began a few months ago, or it just began when Title 42 was taken away. This has been a never-ending, inundated flood monstrosity to beyond 1,000% capacity since Biden took office day one. Since day one. But even Ortiz, the last chief, tried to say, well, it wasn't going to be a problem until after Title 42. Then it was a crisis. And even now they're saying, well, now that we're starting to get the numbers back again. Well, the numbers never disappeared, did they?
No,
the
they
numbers
didn't.
never disappeared. They were just funneled.
No, and this was a genius move by Mayorcas and his crew to put a spotlight on Title 42 and make it all about Title 42. Let's go back to May and let's look at the May numbers. So in May, we had already passed the 5 million mark of illegal aliens being arrested and then released. 5 million. Title 42 really focused on about 600,000 to 800,000 people. So you've just let through 5 million, and now we're really concerned about the 600,000 to 800,000, right? I mean, that's where all of our focus on, knowing that those 600,000 to 800,000 are just waiting for either Title 42 to go away, or they're just circumventing and going through the open borders, open gaps in the border. This was, it was insulting, right? For somebody that knows what this was, it's insulting to hear them talk the way they did, and the Chief Ortiz. I mean, we can go on and on about it, but we all work for guys like Chief Ortiz that they didn't care what they said. They just wanted to move up the ranks. And if you're ambitious, you can be ambitious and be on the moral right path, right? To do the right thing instead of selling out. But there are men like that. Unfortunately, there's men like that throughout the history. And guys like Ortiz can claim all they want that, hey, I really had your back. And no, you didn't. Yeah. I saw you. Yeah, I think it was Yuma trying to tell senior agents that the border was secure and that they're not focusing on the right things. I mean, come on, dude. Yeah. Go pound sand, you traitorous bastard. Go pound sand. Not tell it to his face. I don't have any problem with telling these men, you are the problem, sir. You shouldn't have taken that job. And you just don't take the job. I would never take that job offered under Mayorcas because I know it would end in disaster. Absolute disaster. Because the first day I would say, you're a traitor, you're a traitor, you're a traitor. No, I'm not doing any of that crap. In fact, I'm shut. The only way I'd take that job, I would go against him and know I got about 48 hours, 72 hours to change everything, to make it impossible for him, or just throw a wrench into his evil plans. And I do believe they're evil. I absolutely believe they're evil.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And now in your
Bill,
book, go ahead.
No, I want someone to explain to me if I'm wrong and you're wrong, Gil. And I've asked this question so many times in all of the interviews I've done since I've written my book. If I am wrong, I need you to give me an intelligent, honest answer as to why this is being allowed to happen. And I just sit here in silence, and I refuse to break the silence when I ask that question. And we just sit here like McConnell, just staring into oblivion. Because I'm waiting. It's not, and the only time I ever break the silence is I go silence. And I say, well, this is not a rhetorical question I'm asking you. And do you have an answer? And no one can answer me because it is so blatantly treasonous against the body of America. Yeah. And nobody will acknowledge this fact. And I will, like in my last words in this chapter, I state clearly, Mayorcas is a traitor. And I'm not going to take that back. I had my publisher that wrote this, that was going to publish my book, a big time conservative publishing house, said, no, not publishing your book. At the very end, not going to do it. It's too controversial. Well, what in the hell in my book is not factually true? What have I not documented in my book with endless footnotes? I'm telling you exactly what's happening. You may not like the truth. Hell, you may not like that the way I look or the way I speak. It doesn't change the fact that it's the truth. Mayorcas is a traitor. He's a Benedict Arnold. In fact, you have congressmen calling him a Benedict Arnold in congressional testimony. You have senators telling him that he discussed the senators. Ted Cruz, you're repulsive. You're revolting. You are a Benedict Arnold. And you know what this man does, this little weasel rat? And to his credit, he doesn't even flinch.
No.
He just sits there and looks at him, all kind of little pathetic and kind of meek, and just bamboozles them all.
Because he's 100 moves ahead of them. 100 moves ahead of them. You know, you say here in your book, right? You say here in your book, agents would arrest hardcore felons, sexual predators, and even prior deported illegal aliens for further deportation orders in the interior of the country, and we released them all. This is under Mayorcas working under CIS. It is hard to articulate how maddening it was that almost every single illegal alien the Border Patrol or ICE officers encountered in the interior was considered untouchable. This policy was an intentional bastardization of immigration law. You had top DHS leaders like Mayorkas that swore an oath to protect the American homeland, erasing all immigration enforcement. So this is his legacy. This is what he has been training for, right? He's been training, and he gained the experience, the knowledge, the inner workings, the understanding of it to be able to dismantle it literally bolt by bolt.
Yes, he is, and he has dismantled it. I mean, when you look at if you look at the United States, I tell people this all the time. They go, "Well, what's the difference between Trump and Biden, or all the presidents and Biden?" And I said, "Okay, let me give you one example. One example, excuse me." I said, "Do you understand that even though we were losing, like as a team, we were losing against illegal immigrants and illegal immigration, we were still physically out there working it, right? We were out in the field working it. There's no one out in the field. I remember being in Imperial Beach and putting 50 guys, 60, 70 guys at muster and putting them out for 6 miles and being busy all night."
Yeah.
To now Imperial Beach, for example, puts out 5 guys. Sometimes they're putting out just 2 ATVs. We're talking about one of the 2 most violent cities in Mexico that border America, in urban areas, Tijuana, and there's nobody guarding the border.
Yeah. I mean, well, what about right now, right? We were talking earlier about the field intel I was getting all morning from Tucson, right? Mm-hmm. They have had their watch commanders at their musters come in and say, "You are now all processing agents," right? Yes. There is hardly any presence at all. There might be a few specialty units doing some specialty work here and there throughout the sector, but for the most part, and this has been unanimous across the board, confirmed that the majority of agents are processing and releasing, and the border is literally left unsecured because people think, well, you know, as long as you have one agent out there, the border's secure, right? That's officer safety. That is not a secure border, right? One agent out there, maybe 2, covering a whole AOR is not coverage whatsoever. So we're getting that directly from the field, and we're expected to believe now these suits at DHS CBP that tell us, you know, don't bother coming, or they're telling the aliens supposedly, right, that are following. Apparently, they believe all the aliens that are coming in from other countries, from 170 countries, JJ, are subscribed to DHS CBP, and they're telling them, don't bother coming. You know, we're enforcing Title 8, and you know, and you can't get asylum for just being poor or experiencing violence. But then their buddies, their family members, are texting them back saying, "Hey, I showed up in Tucson. They processed me. They put me on a bus, and I'm in New York now. Hallelujah! And I'll be getting my work permit soon."
Yep. Yeah, and that's the destruction of the American immigration system. And people ask me, "Well, your title says that this intentional destruction of the American immigration system." Yeah. Well, what don't you get?
Yeah.
Do you think that this is normal? And I tell people this is how they're winning, and how Mayorkas will eventually win the game. I don't believe anyone's going to stop them. I don't. I believe the only thing that could change that is Trump gets in office. But I honestly do not believe the Democrats will ever allow him to ever get in office. I mean, you got Tucker Carlson coming out and saying they're going to assassinate him. This is Tucker Carlson that gets, 100 million people looking at him on Twitter every time that he speaks, 200 million saying the President Trump will be assassinated. That's the only next thing to do.
Yeah.
Or we go to World War III and then we do martial law and we can't have an election. So this is going to continue. I don't see it stopping. And they have normalized the chaos. Think about, I always think of this. It's 2019.
Yep.
Going into 2020, and we are winning, right? We're averaging about 150 to 450 arrests a day throughout America, right? 450. That's nothing. If I would have told you then, hey, that guy that's in his basement that can't even speak, and he's going to win, and we're going to jump to probably right at he gets in, it's going to be 5,000 to 6,000 a month, and that's going to continue for his first 32 months in office, and it's going to rise up to 11,000 to 12,000 arrested a day. You would think I was crazy.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, they're going to use parole. And we'd be like, wait a minute. Parole, CBP maybe uses that a couple hundred times a year. No, you're going to use it several million times a year. What?
Yeah.
In fact, you're going to release almost everybody you arrest. We would all go, you are a conspiracy. You're a nut job.
Yeah.
You need to see
Doc
high. Marvin in San Diego. Yeah. You need to be drug tested. Yeah. No, this is the reality, right? And it has become normal because, as you said earlier in our discussion, everybody acts as if this is new. No, it's been going on for almost 3 years now. And Mayorcas plays that great role of I'm really trying.
Yeah.
This is what I inherited.
Dear
no,
Lord,
you inherited the most secure border in the history of our nation, and you have bastardized it because you're a socialist communist scum. You come from a communist nation. You immigrated to America from Cuba. You think you'd be appreciative enough and allow it, but he has the same worldview as all leftists. America's racist. All of its wealth and power and prestige is from ill-gotten gains, and the rest of the world has a right to come in and take pieces of America because of our past sins.
Right.
I absolutely believe he believes
he
that.
has made a career, JJ. He has made a career of hating not only the immigration laws of this country, but Border Patrol, right? And not only that, but this man has the temerity, the gall, the guts, the I don't know what, to put on a Border Patrol jacket with a Border Patrol patch on when he was Attorney General here in California, right? He allowed the release of one of the murderers of NEWTON-AZRAK, right, which is our highest, most prestigious award that we give to agents for valor, for heroism, right, for all those things. And this man is walking around with their patch on. I can't tell you how disgusted I was when I saw that. But getting back to the main topic here, right, I think people still have a hard time believing that this guy's the fulcrum. This guy is the core, the center point, right? He's the Death Star in the middle of this whole nightmare.
Well, he has to be. Look, we're all almost the majority of everyone watching this is former law enforcement or active law enforcement. There are no coincidences, right? There's dots, and the dots are the evidence, and you connect the dots and it creates a picture. This is the man that created everything. This is the man that's implementing everything. How can you not come to the conclusion that this is the guy? And then when you go in, and I wrote this on one of my articles on Substack, is I just listed like 3 or 4 people that are his lieutenants inside DHS. They are the biggest America-hating, ICE-hating, Border Patrol-hating, wanted to fund ICE, wanted to fund everybody. They're his lieutenants. Inside DHS are people by the tens, if not hundreds, that despise every organization that is charged with keeping our nation safe.
Yeah.
So how do you think this is going to happen? Do you think those lieutenants were not run by Mayorcas and said, hey, sir, are these good? That's like going to Chiefs let's say who's the chief in San Diego? Let's just say when Rodney Scott was there, and he had to pick patrol agent in charge or deputy patrol agent in charge. Do you think that he didn't have a say in that? Do you think that any chief in sector would go, everything runs by me. When we get up to watch commander above, I want to know everything that's happening, right? And you're telling me that Mayorcas doesn't know the heads of his departments? Come on. Are you that stupid?
That's the thing, right? Is that over and over, the language matters. And over and over again, you hear people report on Mayorcas as saying he's ignorant, willfully ignorant.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know, or he doesn't understand, or he wasn't aware of anything. But this man, like, this is what you say in your book. You said, Mayorcas is an intelligent man with an impressive resume, starting with his education, his rise in the attorney general ranks, and his rise in the high-powered political appointed positions. I do not question his ability or intelligence, because what he has accomplished in the intentional destruction of the immigration system has been cunning, malicious, and strategically thought out and planned. That's what you say in your book.
And I stand by it. I will not retract any of that. Let me give you an example of the treachery. And it's not small, but it is small in the big thing, but it kind of shows you the thinking. Okay. I'm gonna have to read it to you because I don't want to mess this up. Okay. Right. So we all know the alternative to detention, ATD, and it's a boondoggle, right? Ankle bracelets, telephone. Nobody's you can't even get agents to go out in the field, enough agents to process. Who the hell's monitoring this, right?
Exactly.
Come on, give me a break. So now CBP and DHS is gutting that program, and they're starting a new program called Case Management Pilot Program, CMPP. Now, this is where it gets really good. CMPP is going to be managed by a third party called the Church World Service. Who is Church World Service? Well, they're a proponent to abolish ICE.
Of course.
So you just now turned over a major function in keeping accountability of all these illegal aliens, and you turn them over to an organization that hates us. What's the response? Where the hell are the media? Where the hell are the Republicans outside of Andy Biggs or Chip Roy?
Yeah, a handful. Yes.
Is there anyone else that's even saying it out loud?
Well, that's the thing, right? These judiciary hearings were in some ways were such a joke, right? Because honestly, it was like a circus in the beginning. They're trying to litigate Mayorcas. They're trying to, they're trying to interview patrol agents and border patrol agents, whatever, and they don't even know the difference between a border patrol agent and a CBP officer and an OFO officer. They don't even know who does what, the function. They're asking border patrol agents, about approval of documents and approval of asylums and everything. We don't even get involved with that, right? We're the guys you call when they don't go to the port of entry and apply properly. Then then we get involved in that. So it's like a circus of errors over and over again. And so now they come up to Mayorcas, and I'm telling you, this guy is 100 chess moves ahead of these guys. And all he has to do is sit there with that, nauseating smirk of his, right? And say the border is, and he says the border is closed. He says, just because you're in the United States illegally, that's not subject for deportation. That's not, illegal. They've redefined illegal. They've redefined immigration. They've redefined migrant. Because migrant, immigrants used to be someone who applied and wanted to become American citizens. This current crop for the last 8 to 10 years, they don't want to become American citizens, right?
No. This is about taking what America has.
Yes.
And this is what Mayorkas and the media have conspired to do, and they've been brilliant at it, is they have conflated legal and illegal immigration.
Yes.
And they do that because they want to paint you as a xenophobe, a nationalist, close the borders. And when I have these discussions with liberals on TV and stuff, I always start with, hey, before we begin, and I make sure that I hear that you're okay, we're being recorded, or I'm on TV live and I know it. I say, okay, just so we're clear, we're talking about illegal immigration here, not legal. I'm completely for legal immigration.
Yeah.
And you should see their faces when I say that. They're like, oh my God, that's 99% of my comebacks to this guy.
Pretty much.
I say, okay,
yes.
we're ready to go.
Now
and
we
they
can talk.
don't have anything. Yeah, now we can talk. But that's the problem. And everyone is so afraid, especially white men, are so afraid to be called a racist. And I don't really care. But the majority of white men are scared of being called a racist or xenophobe. And I always say, well, I'm not going to argue the fact that if or am I not a racist. That's not the argument. Here's my data. This is what I believe. This is what I know is happening. This is the outcomes that are happening. And this is how you stop it. I don't really care if you believe I'm a racist or you hate Donald Trump or whatever. That's immaterial to this. I'm telling you as a 24-year veteran of the Border Patrol that this is happening, that Mayorcas is a traitor. I will not back away from that.
Yep.
And if you think that and I always love this, then just tell me. If you disagree with me, then tell me. Like if you said to me, JJ, the borders are secure, I would go, no. And I would give you at least 10 examples of how it's not closed.
Correct.
But I come to you and I say, well, tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me anywhere that in this discussion. And they can't. They just don't like me, or they don't like what I represent, that I'm a racist or I'm a xenophobe or I'm a whatever. Mayorkas is a traitor. He is the tip of the spear. He runs everything. And our Republican Party is impotent. They have no ability to do anything with strength or courage. They are part of the problem. They are complicit with the Democrats. The Democrats are just more malicious and more tenacious and basically have more balls than the Republicans.
No,
the
that's
Republicans are cowards. They're cowards. I vote Republican because I have nothing else to vote for. If there was someone else to vote for, I would not vote for Republicans.
Well,
they don't represent me.
Yes, like this morning I was putting together my update for my border update that goes on the John B. Wells program, and I was just thinking to myself, where do you go, JJ, when you have DHS? CBP was created right after 9/11 to do what? To protect the homeland, right? To secure the homeland, to protect Americans. They're charged with protecting me and my family, which I wouldn't let Mayorkas protect an outhouse because he has the law enforcement. He has the law enforcement instincts of a freaking gerbil, right? But when you have these organizations, these premier law enforcement agencies telling America that the border's secure, that they're enforcing Title 8, that they're sending everybody back. They send 100 back for every 10,000 they release. We know it. Mm-hmm. We absolutely, it's been documented, right? Bill Maloogian, Ali Bradley, Jenny Terre, Ben Burgham, Anthony Aguero, all these guys. That's documented beyond doubt. Mm-hmm. But where do you go? You just sit there helplessly by while you watch this horrific wound along the border, pus-filled, infected, hemorrhaging blood, right? Just hemorrhaging. And we can just sit there and while people telling us to our face, borders closed, border secure, everything's fine. And you said in your book, he has this fantastic ability to lie in the face of Congress, right? He has an unbelievable ability to lie directly to Congress and make statements that are devoid of reality. But yet people believe him, JJ.
They do. And if I was a congressman, I could find out, like I have in my book, that this man has done X, Y, and Z, these three things. I'll pick three. He's done these three things. This is unlawful. And he has done it purposely, and it has injured America. He needs to be impeached or thrown in jail, one of the two or both. I don't care. But he's gone, and I would lead the charge. Why are they so willfully complicit in this? Let's go back. You mentioned 9/11. Let's go back to 9/11, creation of CBP, DHS, and Democrats and Republicans voted on and appropriated funds for a biometric exit system. meaning I come in on a tourist visa and I check out, right? There's a record. We don't have that. How do we not have that? 9/11, visa overstays, fly planes into our Twin Towers and Pentagon, et cetera, and blow things up and destroy our way of life for months, if not years or decades. And yet those bastards play this game of, of course we need the biometric exit system, of course, and they never build it. Why?
Yeah,
you have to ask you have to, if you care about, even if just out of curiosity, you have to ask, why has that never been built? I mean, I can go on to Amazon right now and buy 25 different things, from car parts to socks to workout gear, and they're all going to be in my house tomorrow or the next day. But I can't track people as they come and go in America? Are you
now.
insane?
Are you kidding me?
Yes, come on. We have the technology times a million to do everything and anything we want. It's like well, we can't build a border wall across the Rio Grande. That doesn't make sense. Why can't we?
Yeah.
Are you telling me that we don't have the technology to do whatever we need to do?
In Dubai, they can build a skyscraper on top of the ocean. As I took my break and thinking about, like you said, what do we have to look forward to? What do we have? How are we going to recoup from this? JJ is a Republican, president. If it's Trump, could be DeSantis, could be, Ramaswamy, for all we know. Are we going to be able to turn this around?
I think the only way that this gets corrected is President Trump is the next president. That's the only way. I really believe that.
Are they going to let him?
Soul.
Are they going to let him do it?
I don't think so. I don't. I think if there is somebody to withstand this tidal wave of lawlessness, it's him. And the reason why I say that he's the answer is because he already did it.
Right.
He already knows how to do it. He already knows day one. And he's already said, I'm going to build the world's largest deportation force. Everyone within the DH system, in asylee, parole, whatever crap that Mayorcas came up with, everyone's deported. Out, get out. And that's what we need. We need huge systemic changes throughout all law enforcement in the United States government and agencies and departments. It needs to be completely gutted, and it's going to have to be somebody that comes in with a meat cleaver, not a scalpel, and just hack parts of this away. And if it's good people get hacked away, I'm sorry, because a lot of times the good people just shut your mouth and played along in this corruption. So you get whacked off, you get knocked off the perch as well. So sorry, but I think that's the only way. I do. But another 4 years of Biden or Newsom or someone like that, I don't think we come back from it. I don't. And it's a numbers game, right? It's an absolute numbers. And then when you start, and I put this in my book, and then you start looking at fertility rates, right? Fertility rates sometimes are depending on where you're at, 3 to 6 times the national average of fertility. Then it becomes a strict numbers game. You have 70 million, 100 million foreign nationals in our country, illegal aliens, asylees, whatever the hell you want to call them, and they're reproducing at a 3, even at the minimum 3-to-1 ratio. And America is not even reproducing. I mean, not even replicating, right?
Yep.
So just do the math. You're looking at one generation. We may still be called the United States of America, but we'll never be what our founding fathers, what we were a decade ago. We're just not. And that's not anything but a mathematical problem. And so you can't say, well, you're X, Y, and Z. No. I'm just talking about straight numbers. Can you at least look at data from a non-racist lens and just say, this group here is this many people. Native population is this. They're not reproducing. This group that's non-citizens are reproducing at a 3-to-1, 6-to-1 ratio. how long mathematically, it's algebra, does that population surpass that population?
Yeah.
And it's just a mathematical equation. What is that number? I don't know, but I say within a generation. That's what my go-to is. Within a generation, America will be demographically changed forever.
Yeah. Well, there is no denying whatsoever that under this administration, under this DHS secretary, right, Mayorcas, and everybody around him that supports him, his work, and believes it, because I believe he's a true believer. I believe a lot of people under him, including CBP leadership, are true believers, that record entries, they're not even apprehensions, they're just encounters, record gotaways, record releases, record paroles, record fentanyl entries, record human and adult smuggling, again, on and on and on again. It's like we keep having to repeat ourselves, but by sheer numbers alone, nobody has done the damage they have done to the immigration system and to America more than under this man. And I still can't believe people think he's the good guy.
Yep. And you said it perfectly. He is the man that is destroying the American immigration system. He is the number one guy. He answers to no one. And if he does answer to someone, to tell me who it is.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
and
you wake up some mornings, JJ, pumped and ready to go, and then other days you wake up like I'll be honest with you, man. I woke up today thinking, who the hell's listening anymore, right? You ever watched Netflix long enough to get that little screen that says, "Are you still watching?"
Yeah.
And I always thought to myself, how would they know if I'm not still watching? How would I even read this and answer it if I'm asleep or not on it or whatever? But I just wonder if America is still watching. Is America tuned in, or who is listening to our words? JJ, you write a book. You're on the circuit. You're in there grinding every single day. Right. I'm trying to do my best to do that. And there's many others as well, but not doing what you and I are doing. I mean, how many actual retirees have are actually, fighting the fight, right? You do have guys like Rodney Scott on the higher levels, right, that are on the Fox circuit. You got guys like Tom Homan. You have Mark Morgan, who I did him a disservice when I found out he was chief of the patrol. I did not like him. I didn't even give him a chance. And now he's become one of our best and greatest defenders and champions out there fighting the fight. But who's listening anymore, right? I like to say border security sells, but who's buying?
I feel as you do too. There's days where I'm just like, you know what? Let it all burn. No one's doing anything to stop it. I mean, I look at investigative journalists like Ali Bradley. She's great, right? Michael Yan, he's great. Miss Terror, she's awesome. But they're telling stuff to us that we're like, yeah, of course. They'll send me something or send you. And I'm like, yes, of course this is happening. No, that's not why it's happening. This is why it's happening. And so you have people that are in the weeds of it now that don't even truly understand why things are happening or how they're happening. So those are civilians that have dedicated their lives now to uncover the treason of open borders. But the rest of America is just oblivious. They're just oblivious. And I don't know, I have my own personal feeling on that. But I just don't, some days I think, okay, we're making headway, and others more than not, I'm just like, you know what? It's happening at such an increasing rate daily that I don't see us overcoming it. I don't. I think it's just simply a numbers game. And when you start looking at it from a data point and numbers and algebra equations attached to it, it's not a good ending. And there's nothing stopping it. And I think as we get closer to the presidential election, I see them getting even more bold and them opening up even bigger and wider avenues. So you'll begin to see the numbers of 7,000 to 9,000 turn into 15,000 to 20,000 a day.
Yeah,
I really believe
get
that.
him all ready to vote and get him to vote Democrat. Yep. So JJ, this has been quite a conversation, and I tell you, just getting it out of my system, it really does help. Next week, you and I are gonna talk. You're gonna explain to us, right, to where all of us in the nosebleed section can understand it. How did we get here? How did we get here? That's going to be the topic of the next podcast. But I thank you for your time, knowing what it's like, and sacrificed what I have sacrificed. I know you sacrificed what you have sacrificed to even just keep the message out. That we're just going to have to keep each other strong, brother, until we see until something gives.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for this time, and I think it's important, if anything, that we are now categorizing and cataloging exactly what is happening. So when people do come back and say, well, no one said anything, we can just sit down and hit play and let them listen. And no one else listened. So for that, I do have some respect for you for doing it. So thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what made me respect you more just in this podcast alone was you mentioning Mark Marvin. I love that guy, right? You remember Mark Marvin? Dr. Marvin?
No. Oh,
EAP?
Dr. Marvin. Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, you know, he was a good guy. He was a good friend of Border Patrol agents. And I don't know if he's still in San Diego sector, but that is one thing that the Border Patrol did well is we had access to psychiatrists and mental health support and EAP, which is one of the very few things that we did very, very well.
Yeah, but how many of them? Yeah. How many? You know how many times I took Dr. Marvin on ride-alongs. You know how many? We answered calls together. We did a lot of work together, and he even helped me personally when I had some personal issues that I called for myself in my relationship, in my marriage, and stuff. I went directly to him because I knew I could trust him. JJ, I saw his face. Yeah. I knew what kind of man he was. I think that's one thing that's sadly missing from today's resiliency programs, right? Is just that hands-on approach.
Well, I can't imagine what the mental state of agents are today.
It
must be really, because I know there must be a large segment of the Border Patrol population that is stuck, meaning they're at that 12 to 15 year range, and they're like, this is foolish for me to leave. I'm 8 years away from hitting my 20. I have to. But then to go into work knowing that you were doing illegal acts, no matter how you rationalize it, there are going to be times in the day of your life you're going to be asking yourself, how did I allow myself to be in this position where I have to do this work, that I'm doing the bidding of evil, traitorous, treasonous people? That's a tough spot to be, right?
No amount of resilience no amount of resilience can help you with that. Anyway, thanks a lot, JJ. I appreciate your time.
All right, brother. Have a good day.
You
Talk
too.
soon.